Okay, question one of the other group asked is how do you start a drawing? And it's very hard to answer that because when you draw for years there's no any one way how to start a drawing because there's a stack of different ways, there's all different approaches. And when I start a drawing I usually use a combination of different things to start a drawing. So I'm going to do a little demo here on how to start a drawing. And Gemma's going to pose for me. Right, so first thing I do, and it's almost on autopilot, is I usually sort of knock a line down. It's because I don't even think about that. Some things run on muscle memory. It's like when you're driving along, coming back from Launceston, and Elizabethtown's coming up, and then you think, oh, Elizabethtown, oh, what's that? Oh yeah, I've drove past it, because you're going on muscle memory. So muscle memory can be a part of what you do. I'll try this one, it might be darker. Yeah, it is. More of a charcoal one. So usually I start with that, and it's like when I start the gesture drawings, and while I was getting you guys to do like 30-second, 15-second drawings is because you get that first bit down. So I usually start off as if I've only got a few seconds to do it. So usually have a head, so like a head and a little bit of a shape coming off that line's just starting. That's where I usually start from. And you can do all sorts of things from there. I usually look at where the shoulders are and where the hips are. So you got head, a line, shoulders, hips. That's a pretty good starting point. Okay, next I am starting to look at the shape now. So I have to keep stopping myself because I've usually done this in a few seconds. See how we're starting to get like a feminine figure there. Just even that line there is giving you the thigh, and a small frame of the chest there. So that's just, again, will take seconds to get to that point. Once you're at that point, and like I say, I do that probably on autopilot without even thinking about it. And it's one of those things, it's a pity Tony's not here, he's a martial arts instructor. He will do a lot of stuff muscle memory. He doesn't even have to think about it, which means he can put his mind on other things.
Trail running is the same.
Sorry?
Trail running is the same.
Trail running, yeah.
Trail running because you've got uneven ground.
Yeah, and so your muscle memory is that you run, but your mind can be also on the path ahead.
Well, your feet feel it through and you just automatically
yeah.
do it with your feet.
So there's a lot of things you can just do on autopilot, and drawing is one of it. And it's one of the reasons we draw over and over and over again. So you start thinking on autopilot when you draw. Okay, from this point, that's when I probably start thinking what I'm going to do next. So let's break it down into shapes, which is the common way that you'll see a lot of how to draw books. I will pop in shapes. And I'm trying to restrict myself to that because, like I say, I usually knock in a stack of different ways to draw. So there you go, I just popped in shapes. I popped in that shape, that shape. It's a little bit like those little mannequins that we use to draw. That helps you break down shapes. That's what those mannequins are for, to help you sort of see the shapes. So here are the shapes. From there, that's when I start thinking, well, it's when I start thinking. Exactly, I've done all that. Now I start thinking, what's that negative space like there and here? Because now I'm sort of looking more. What's that negative space like here? Press in. Not much longer, Jim. Okay, so I am looking at angles. I'm looking at negative spaces. these are some of the things you can do to correct what you've just done really quick. You do it really quick and rough, and then you do corrections. That's one way of drawing. So if her knee's there, where does her hand come? It comes about halfway between her hip and her knee. That's where her hand is. So this is a useful way. What angle is that line there? You can do this. You can put lines through your work. It's not about making a pretty picture at this stage. It is about getting it right. And it is much better to get something right with lots of lines running through like this. It's better to do that than it is to make a pretty picture, because here you're learning. It's learning, learning, learning. That's what it's all about. Okay, so there's a few ideas there. I'll show you another way. Different pose. A much more, I suppose, artistic way of doing it would be to do the outside contours. And again, you're probably looking at angles and things again. So, I will probably start again. Okay, it's pretty hard to sort of try and say what I'm doing here, because I just go through automatically, but I've just sort of knocked together a few lines. I guess they're sort of guidelines. Very, very rough stick figure guidelines. Right, my face is here. Now if I was doing the male figure, I would probably do it like this. See that? Yep. The outside would be like that. I'm doing a female. And so this is, like I say, it's probably a more artistic or arty way of doing it, without taking too much notice of actual anatomy, but looking more to how you feel. She's got a very strong pose, but I'm still going to make it try and look soft and feminine by doing this. Continuous lines, smooth, flowing lines. If you can just do it in one line, all the better. So, I'm not trying to get accurate here, I'm trying to convey the feeling of the model. So it's a strong pose. When you look at 20th century works like Picasso and Matisse, they take this to the ultimate extreme, where they are just looking at doing those beautiful feminine lines. They've gone beyond realism, they've gone to the next step of what do we feel about this and how do we describe this. Okay, so some ways of drawings like that. And you can do it quite fast. You can sort of go okay, flowing, sweet, curvy lines. They are often very hard to reproduce when you're sort of doing an etching, for example, but you can do it. You look at some of the Picasso etchings, they're just these nice, really flowing, sweet lines. Hard to do with a dry point, but also with a paintbrush you get there and think, oh, I've got this canvas, it costs X amount of dollars, and I've got this paint, it costs so much, I'm going to get there and I'm going to go. Whereas if you just get there and go, looks good. And it's also about getting a flow with your work too. If you can get a flow, helps your muscle memory, and everything runs a bit sweeter. Next pose. Try and think of another way of doing it. That's good, she's facing the light. Okay, the Impressionist way of doing it. And this is very tricky because what you got to do is you got to squint at your model. So if I squint there, what I sort of see when I squint is it gets rid of all the detail and all you're left with is black and white, shade and tones. So it's drawing tones, but the thing is you squint at this as well. This might take a little moment, but I will hope you're right there for me. A little while. Try. And this is how I start this one. Okay? This is actually, although it looks probably the most scribbly, is a good way of getting almost photorealistic drawings. Because what we see is usually light and dark. I'm actually drawing the negative space here. On that side. On this side I'm doing a positive space. Let's just suggest that you try this if you've got plenty of time. But slowly comes into focus. I'm sort of half squinting now, and I'm sort of looking. It's funny, I sort of said this is how you start a sketch. It's sort of one of those things where you're almost finished before you start. Right. So I've got this far, just squinting at the figure. Now I open my eyes and start filling in some of the details. You right there, Jen?
Yeah. So high contrast?
To start with, you see the high contrast, but you start then seeing softer tones, like here. It's a soft tone here. You might sort of, again, I suppose it's cheating a little bit. You probably make that negative space there quite dark, just to show off the lightness of the skin there. Darken that in because the bikini sort of confused the eye there on the breast. So you can see this is a handy way to do a drawing, just using the tonal value. Now the great thing about this is that, like I said before, you can start your drawing off really quick and rough. You can start doing some corrections, you can start looking at negative spaces, you can start putting in some nice curvy lines, and then you can squint and sort of look at this as well. This can also not only be a way of starting a drawing, it can be a way of correcting a drawing, because you think something's not quite right, you know, you're looking at negative space. That gets your line work right, but your tonal range is the other half. And this is why the Impressionists would paint like this and draw like this, because they're looking at light. Everything's just light hitting something. Okay, next pose. Good. Next time I show you the reference sketching. Again, not about making a pretty picture. It is about, okay, let's just say, okay, I like this, I want to do a painting of this, but all I've got is this drawing I'm about to do. Okay, so let's get pose in really quick. If you've got, say 10 minutes to sketch something, I'm going to do a combination of things here. So I want to do the line there, even just exaggerate it. So you see I'm doing the sweeping line thing as well. Now you see I'm using my whole arm, especially with the sweeping ones, just the whole arm to sweep it. And then I'm chucking some shade in here, shade in here. So I'm using now a combo of these things. Maybe a bit more here. About as much as I can get down in a really short amount of time. But like I say, if I want to do a reference thing, what I'm going to do now on the same page is I'm going to get there and, okay, that hand there. It's a really strange angle which I would actually have trouble imagining just out of my head. So I'm going to, let's see, 2 fingers there. That's a bit of an idea of that hand, this hand here, that thumb there, same thing. So I don't have thumbs like Jenna. I can't reproduce this back in my studio unless I have a model. So the points of interest, thumb there, and your foot. This is reference drawing. This is, like I say, it's not about making a pretty picture, it is about collecting information. That's the foot. Especially when you go live model, especially when you go around and you think, I haven't seen a hand look like that before. You know, I haven't seen a foot at that angle before. Well, here's your chance to take in what I call visual notes. That's the way the foot is, and even there I might even sort of look at negative space around. So you can see what I mean by visual notes. Just being things like that. Another way of doing this is that you can also get there and think, okay, the spine is here, scapula is here. Take a note to yourself that you're actually putting in more than that's actually there. The other scapula is here, those shoulder blades are coming in like that. So I'm going to exaggerate that. The deltoid is here. This is coming right at me. So what I'm doing is actually recording more than I actually see. And what I do here is little note to myself. Smooth out later. Okay, so let's see. Trapezius is here. And that's here. So I'm actually, popping in a bit of this anatomy here. Okay, so she doesn't look quite like that, but I've got the visual notes. I know roughly where these things are. I take that back to my studio. I'm not going to, but if I wanted to, I would get there and I would do this pose, which would be sort of looking over a battlefield or whatever, and it could be part of a bigger picture, and I've got reference material, so that when I do these are sort of important, that's important, that foot's important, and I'd probably even sketch the other foot as well, just to make sure that I've got those bits that are important. You might then drape some form of clothing over it when you actually do the final thing. Don't know. Reference drawing. So again, we're not here just to do pretty pictures, we're here to take in reference, record information, and also it's to train you guys to sketch fast. There you go.
Awesome, thank you.
No worries.